welcome to Sarah's Singing Dog Vlog. This is week number 8. I know we had a week off, but I'm not going to call it week 9 because I'll just get really confused. So it's the 8th one, so it's week 8 as far as I'm concerned. Today I am going to be touching on the subject of off-lead work and recall. This is a massive subject, so I'm going to just be starting with the basics, how to get your dog to come back, why it should want to come back, how to make coming back fun, a few little things like that, and then we will move on. We'll call this kind of recall part 1, and there'll probably be quite a few parts to this because obviously off-lead work is quite a big subject. So yeah, basic stuff today, and then we'll move on to more challenging things like chase drive later on. Okay, but before we do that, I am starting with a song, and I have recently been reminded of how much I love the show Avenue Q. So I'm doing I'm doing a song from Avenue Q today. It's called There's a Fine, Fine Line, and it's fairly self-explanatory. There's a fine, fine line between a lover and a friend. And there's a fine, fine line between reality and pretend. And you never know till you reach the top if it was worth the uphill climb. There's a fine, fine line between love and a waste of time. There's a fine, fine line between a fairy tale and a lie. And there's a fine, fine line between you're wonderful and goodbye. I guess if someone doesn't love you back, it isn't such a crime. But there's a fine, fine line between love and a waste of your time. And I don't have the time to waste on you anymore. I don't think that you even know what you're looking for. For my own sanity, I've got to close the door and walk away. Oh, there's a fine, fine line between together and not. And there's a fine, fine line between what you wanted and what you got. You gotta go after the things you want while you're still in your prime. There's a fine, fine line between love and a waste of time. Okay, right, so recall, big subject. We're going to start little, and like I say, add things on as we start talking about more complicated things. The basic thing, there's 2 basic things you need to know about having good off-lead control with your dog. Number 1, your dog needs to find you fun to be with, okay? If you are boring and it's not fun for them to come back to you, if they don't enjoy coming back to you, then they're just not going to do it. Especially when there are rabbits and squirrels and other dogs to play with and things to sniff and yeah, all of those sort of distractions that you're going to find every day on your off-lead walks. So if there's a lot of that going on, and even sometimes if it's just an empty field, there's still going to be smells, there's going to be things that you're not aware of that are very distracting for a dog. So if you're not fun and exciting, if coming back to you isn't wonderful, then they've got absolutely no reason to do it. So that's number 1. Number 2, the dog has to respect you, okay? Quite often, no matter how wonderful you are, there are other more wonderful things out there. Okay, it does depend a lot on the dog. There are some dogs where you are their entire world and nothing is more wonderful than you, but those sort of dogs are actually quite few and far between. Normally, most dogs will find chasing a squirrel more fun than coming to you. Most dogs will find playing with other dogs more fun than coming to you. Most dogs will find eating something utterly gross like horse poo more wonderful than coming to you. So I do apologise, my phone's really kicking off tonight. There's going to be bleeps through all of this. Anyway, just ignore that. I'll try to ignore it as well. So yeah, so there's going to be things that are more, no matter how exciting and fabulous you are, and no matter how smelly and wonderful your treats are, etc., no matter how fun the ball is, there will generally be things out there that may be more fun even than your ball and your treats and your wonderful exciting self. So you have to have respect from your dog. Your dog needs to respect you enough to go, okay, I quite like to play with these dogs, I really like to play with these dogs, but my owner has called me and I need to do as I'm told because I have lots of respect for them and I want to please them and I want to do as they want rather than as I want. Now, there's some of you sitting there thinking, oh my God, I wish. Okay, the respect comes through how you treat your dog generally. Okay, respect is learnt in the den, in the house. Okay, whatever you want to call it. Just like when you're raising a child, you teach them respect and manners and all of those sort of things from how you raise them at home, so that they then go on to practice those lovely manners at school or at nursery or in general as they grow up and get older in the big wide world. They put all the lovely manners and respect things that you've taught them in the house as they were growing up into practice out there in the big wide world. And the exact same thing, I don't like, I don't like comparing dogs to children, but it is a very similar thing going on here. You will teach your dog all those lovely manners and respect rules inside the house, and then they will follow them when they're outside the house. Okay, so this goes back to what I was saying very early on about humanisation, about being careful about them being on sofas and on beds and things like that. It can be very, very difficult for people to understand that a recall issue can be massively connected to the fact that your dog is allowed on a sofa. Right, but the two are hugely linked. In my vast experience, they are hugely linked. And generally, if you're massively humanising your dog and mollycoddling it at home, it will have a lot less respect for you outside than someone who is strict in the house. Because if you're strict in the house, they expect you to be strict out there, and the whole control thing comes together. Okay, so the respect thing is 50% of recall. The fun, exciting thing is the other 50%. If you're just fun and exciting but your dog doesn't respect you, then unlikely to come back. If your dog respects you but you're very boring, again, unlikely to come back. Those two things are massively linked with recall. So take your treats out, take your toys out, be exciting, do fun things. Make sure that you don't always put your dog straight back on the lead, and that's the only time you call it, is when you're putting it back on the lead to go home. You're very quickly going to end up with a dog that sees that lead come out and goes, yeah, right, and just basically buggers off and says, well, I'm not coming because you've got that lead out, and that means end of walk, and I'm loving this walk, thank you very much, so you can start off with your lead. So make sure that you are calling them frequently throughout the walk. Okay, not just at the end. I would also recommend that if you have got a dog that's starting to twig that when we get to the corner of this field the lead comes out and then I go home, then you need to get the lead out often throughout the walk and clip it on and then take it off again. And don't do it in the same places every time. Don't always put it back on the lead at the same place at the end of every walk. Vary it so that your dog is never really sure whether it's just having the lead on for a couple of seconds and getting a treat and doing maybe a sit or a down and then the lead comes off and it gets free again, or you're going home. It doesn't know which is which, so it's quite happy to come and have the lead on because it just thinks, oh, I'm probably just getting some treats and some training and it'll all be lovely. So do vary that. Another quick thing that I want to touch on, I'm only going to touch on this because, like I say, this is just a basic recall at the moment. Dogs that come to about there and then dance around and don't let you grab them. There's two reasons that happens. One, you've lent and grabbed a lot and the dog's starting to get scared. Now, I'm not saying that you've been nasty, but dogs get scared quite often unreasonably, okay? So you won't have done anything mean, all right, at all. You've not beat them, but just the reaching can be really frightening for some dogs, okay? Even though you're not meaning it at all, that can just be like, oh, I don't want to be grabbed, and they start darting away. So one, it's fear. Now, again, I'm not saying you've done anything horrible. You won't. I've seen thousands of these dogs, and I know the owners haven't done anything horrible, but just that reaching movement and the grabbing is enough to freak them out a bit. That's one reason. The other reason is just game playing. They're just doing it because it's so much fun watching you running around like an idiot trying to get hold of them. Okay, they basically just see it as a big fun game that happens at the end of every walk until finally you manage to catch them. So we need to resolve both of those two things. The best way to prevent that, like I said, I'm only touching on this at the moment. I will go into how to cure that. But what I really want to do today is basic recall, which is starting from scratch. So to make sure that that never happens, never reach and grab your dog, ever. From the very beginning, from when it being a tiny puppy or the first day you get it from your rescue centre, when you're practicing recall in the house, in the garden, never do the grabby thing, okay? Always make the dog come to you, really close up. A lot of people, and you might have seen this has been doing the rounds on Facebook, play a game called Middle, where the dog comes and ends up between your legs and gets the fuss here. That's great. I also like to crouch down and get them to come up. Crouching down and going down to their level is a lot less threatening than reaching, so that's much easier. Another one of my favourites is turning sideways and getting them to come to the heel position, which again, less confrontational, less worrying for the dog. And then when you take hold of their collar, if they're wearing one, you need to go underneath. So never over the head where the collar is, but underneath. So that they're not actually ever getting that grabbing motion at all. All right, so from puppies, from very tiny, never ever do the grabbing. Take the collar underneath and make sure that every time you call, whether it's a house, whether it's a garden, on your first ever off-lead walk, get them coming really close every time. We will I'll probably do a whole vlog on the dancing away and darting away and never coming close. We'll probably do a whole one on that because that's quite a big thing, and it can take a while to fix. And the lovely games and all the things that you're seeing on Facebook about it don't always work. Sometimes they work for a couple of weeks, and then they stop. The dog gets wise to it. They're very clever. So a lot of these fun tricks that you're seeing that look really simple, you say are simple, but dogs can get wise to things as well because they're pretty switched on. So we will talk about that in detail later on. But what I want to focus on for today, which I'm hoping I have done a fair bit already, is the respect, which is absolutely massive, and the fun, exciting. So treats, toys, and making sure that you are strict with them in the house, that they understand their recall command from very young. Don't just use their name. Their name should be for getting their attention. So have a clear and different recall command, something like come or here or to me. It doesn't really matter. I've seen people use gravy or biscuit. As long as you're using the same thing every single time, that's what's important. So that it's very clear that that's the only thing you want when you say that word. I personally use come. I use the dog's name, so Cookie come, Teddy come. I also use this as my hand signal. I'm very big on hand signals for everything. Recall needs to be a nice big hand signal, so if they're at a distance and they turn around and glance at you, they can see that you're doing something very obvious that means you want them back. Okay, for little dogs, I do the exact same thing. I don't know how much you can see me on the thing, but I crouch right down for little dogs. Always when you crouch, don't lean and call them. Actually crouch down and keep your upper body upright. Okay, and arms out, and then as they come in, try little wiggly fingers. Dogs normally are very attracted to movement, so you want to try and make eye contact, which is another reason why you crouch down. Try and make eye contact, and then if you wiggle your fingers after you've done that, as they start to come towards you, little bit of wiggly fingers, bring them in and treat and fuss and go nuts. And don't just treat and fuss. Do some training. Like I said earlier, be exciting to be with. If all you do is treat and then they shoot off again, then they're going to very quickly learn how to come back and grab that treat really quickly and then be off before you can get them. Okay, so always do something else other than just a treat. So sit, wait, treat. Try taking their collar at the same time as you give the treat. Make that really positive. Or do a down. Down is really relaxing for dogs. I like to do lots of downs on a walk because it changes their headspace quite a lot. If all you're doing is sits, sits really, it's a very reactive position, okay? So they can dart off from a sit very easily. They can't dart off quite so easily from a down position. It's a much more relaxed position. So I tend to do lots of downs on walks as well as sit weights. I'll do lots of down stays, get them a bit more relaxed and help them to focus as well. So lots of fun training, lots of fun play, and make sure that that respect is in place, so that even if there is something more fun and they really want to do it, they're looking at you going, actually, you know what, I need to do as I'm told here. It's really important to me that I keep in the good books of my owner. Okay, so make sure that you've got that respect in place in the house, so that the dog actually wants to please you, as well as wanting to come back for its own sake, for the yummy treat and the fun training. Okay, I think that's everything covered for the basic recall. It's quite difficult for me to hold back and not start talking about chasing and playing and the going into much more detail about the darting away issue and things like that. So I'm trying to make sure I've covered everything, but I haven't gone off on a tangent too much. So yeah, basic recall. Do lots of it. If you are in a family situation or with a partner, then do go out together. It's really helpful for dogs to be called, you know, call them one to you and then to the other person, get the kids playing and chasing, you know, things like that. Never chase the dog. It's good for the dog to chase you, but you don't want to ever chase the dog, because that encourages them to run away from you, which you never want. So you want them coming and chasing after you and playing those sort of games rather than the other way around. Okay, right, I think I could end up talking forever if I'm not careful, so I'm going to leave it at that. Sorry about the week off. It's not going to happen too often, I don't think. I hope you enjoyed everything today. Any questions, let me know, and please do go to the website, thepetexperience.co.uk, and call me if you need anything.